On this edition of the DenziBlitz, it's part 5 of our look at Uchuu Keiji Shaider. Alright everybody, it is Mike. Welcome back to the DenziBlitz. It is part 5, as I said, of our look at Uchuu Keiji Shaider, and it's time for a quick confessional. Somehow, some way, I'm not sure what, the list of episodes I have, the numbering on them and whatnot, was off. I actually wound up watching episodes out of order by complete accident. So, we're going to make a quick clarification. Last week, I actually wound up watching, oh my goodness gracious, I actually ended up watching episodes 26, 27, and 28 somehow. So if you watched last week, it was actually, let's see here, Great Crash into the Demon Zone, the Demon Island Deathmatch, the Demon Palace's Backstabbing Brothers, and then I think Surprised Alien Life Form, and it might have been Oh No, the Beast Family. So somehow some stuff got rearranged. I'm going to blame that on the numbering of the episodes as I downloaded them. So I don't normally go back and double check the episode numbers to make sure they're right, but that happened. So instead, this week we're going to talk about the episodes I didn't talk about last week, and then a couple of new ones, I guess. The episodes that I watched this week, just so we all know, were episode 23, The Great Escape with Wounds All Over, episode 24, which is, and I'm just double checking like with a monster list and other stuff, episode 24, The Beautiful Pose Mask, episode 25, Esper Queen, and then the two episodes I missed from last week, where I'd watched some stuff out of order, which were The Mysterious Writings of the Space Sheriffs and The Fallen Empire Swallowed by the Pacific Ocean. And as I'm going to hazard a guess, which is that Annie in Danger is actually coming up on the list I got. So, but if you're trying to keep score at home, last week, I basically missed 3 episodes. I didn't watch Mysterious Writings, Fallen, basically 17, 18, or 19 instead. Somehow, like I said, 26, 27, 28 somehow wound up there. I don't know how, but my apologies. Such things happen when you're dealing with fan subs on occasion. So, at any rate, this week, 5 episodes down. 5 pretty good episodes, I might add. So let's just chit-chat a little bit. Overall first impressions. This batch of episodes of Shaider, continuing the trend from the last batch I watched, and even better. And had I watched them in the right order, it would have been better still. We're actually starting to get a plot. It only took them 20-something episodes, but we're getting a plot. So we run into what is effectively the first 2-parter of this series, which is, in actuality, 17 and 18, Mysterious Writings of the Space Sheriffs and Fallen Empire Swallowed by the Pacific Ocean, which involves Poe having some bad dreams, some nightmares about Nazca, the plains of Nazca, and different symbols and iconography. And simultaneously, we find out more about Shaider, Dai's background. That Dai was an archaeologist prior to becoming a space sheriff. That supposedly all of his archaeology digs and whatnot happened, for all intent and purpose, during Gavin. They make their mark. It was 2 years ago, which would coincide with everything going on Space Sheriff Gavin on that show. but he doesn't remember all of it necessarily. He remembers bits and pieces and ideas. Um, and so that kind of brings us together. Now, our hero and our villains have a connection, which is utterly fantastic. Um, Poe's nightmares revolve around the fall of the Mu Empire, MU, the Mu Empire, which was an empire on Earth thousands of years ago. Uh, and Nazca is somehow connected to that, whereas Dai was researching symbols, iconography, and whatnot, thinking that perhaps it was a language on the Nazca Plains and on Easter Island and in old Mayan temples. He was a scholar. So, very interesting concept. I really dig that. The connection is exploited further in, I'm going to check my list here. I'm checking the monster list because that's going to give me a better idea of what I'm actually looking for here. I want to say it would have been. Would it have been episode 23? It looks like it is. Regardless, there's a. Nope, episode 25. So it plays more into episode 25, which is Esper Queen, which is another sort of Poe somewhat centered episode, and the discovery of a gold tablet which bears the emblem of the space sheriffs. It actually bears the Galactic Police Union emblem, but it's obviously ancient, and we learn from Lord Kublai that he is actually a former Mu Emperor. He's been playing dumb to an extent. He thinks that Poe is descended from the Mu, and we have this connection now between them, that Lord Kublai is Poe's ancestor. And we learned that there was a Shaider before Dai. They specifically use the name Shaider, and to distinguish between them, there is Warrior Shaider. There's no indication that he was ever a space sheriff or connected to any interstellar group. Perhaps we should assume that maybe he was connected to the Galactic Police, because we now know they too are thousands of years old. That's something that gets explained in these episodes. That we have the... we basically have this warrior Shaider, no armor, no transformation, nothing high-tech, but he more or less single-handedly causes the fall of the Mu Empire and defeats Lord Kublai in the past. So, hence, Lord Kublai's particular interest in defeating Space Sheriff Shaider, the namesake descendant of the warrior that defeated the Mu Empire, because he does not want to be defeated by Shaider again. So now we have a connection. Now we have a story. This thrills me, folks. I love that part. And this story here is, to me, is what the series has up to this point been missing. All the other episodes that I watch out of this batch, frankly, comparatively speaking, were forgettable, to be honest. Those three caught my attention so much, and the rest of them, not so much. So, what did I like out of this batch of episodes? Well, I've got to say, number one, story. They finally got one. Effects-wise, the effects are continuing to improve. One of the things that happens in these episodes, it also happened in the last batch, which I neglected to mention during last week's episode, is they're not always entering the strange dimension every episode now. So from time to time, they're breaking their own formula. They won't necessarily enter the strange dimension. Shaider will occasionally defeat the monster outside of that. That's a nice touch. It kind of gives you this variation, difference, so that way it's not the same every episode. I really appreciate that. Annie is getting more and more relegated. That I don't like. Annie is becoming more and more a side character in some of these episodes and is being somewhat relegated to damsel in distress. That I really could do without. Annie has been a tremendous character up to this point, and they have spent so long establishing her as a competent professional, a law enforcement officer in this series. Even going so far in different episodes as referring to her as Space Sheriff Annie, that she holds the same rank Shaider does in that regard, that she is a space sheriff just like he is. The only difference is she doesn't have armor and he does. I was watching this with my wife and she said, well, why can't she transform if she's a space sheriff? And that's a question that someone watching the show for the first time might have. But the original show, Gavin, creates that precedent. Not every space sheriff has armor. Space Sheriff Allen in the original series, in Gavin, does not transform. He does not have armor. He has weaponry, but not armor. Same thing with Annie. She has weaponry, but not armor. And they've done so much to establish her up to this point. Even having her pilot the Sky Cheyenne or the Battle Cheyenne, basically the combat vehicles of Shaider, and fighting alongside him, not only taking on the foot soldiers, the mooks, but also taking on the Girls' Army and Hessler and dudes that were beating Shaider down. I mean, they've had her hold her own and be so much full-fledged Scheider's partner. Not sidekick, not damsel, not subordinate, but partner. That to pull her out of that role, and I think the one that just, frankly, and I'm not trying to be grabby when I say this, made me throw up in my mouth a little bit, was in one particular episode, she's in a coffin, being essentially held hostage. She's tied up, and she actually, you hear her thoughts, and she thinks, Shaider, save me. And in that moment, she was less Scheider's partner and more Lois Lane, which was horrible. And even nowadays, even Lois Lane's not Lois Lane. Lois Lane is a competent professional that can usually get herself out of stuff just as easily as she can get herself in it. That's Annie in most of this series. There are episodes where she has been in similar situations or worse, and the thoughts we hear come out of her are, okay, here's my chance. How do I get out? How do I escape? Where she's trying to figure out how to get out on her own. Here, with no one around her, no bad guys, no nothing, simply tied up and, for all intent and purpose, laying in a box with no lid on it. The coffin lid is off of it. Shaider, save me. That, step forward with the story, step back with the characters. I can enjoy the series with the story they're starting to tell, but please don't stove up the characters, because that thus far is what's kept me watching and kept me interested. Other things in here, stuff that I may not necessarily have cared for, as per usual, monster suits, hit or miss. The visual effects, as I said, pretty much staying right up there. They have not really taken a step back in that regard. Same thing for the music. The music is continuing now to have its own identity rather than being a carbon copy of previous Space Sheriff shows. So all of that I appreciate. Realistically, there's not a whole lot much more to say. If you want more in-depth analysis or synopses or whatnot, hit up Wikipedia or Google. Those are your friends. Next week, normally I would, at this point I would say, 6 new episodes are coming next week, 28 through 33. However, in saying that, I have to tell you that I know good and well I've already watched one of these episodes. So, I know 6 episodes next week. I know one of them is not 28. I suspect it's 19, Annie in Danger. But as for the rest of what I will be watching next week, episode 29, The Policewoman with 100 Faces, which truthfully, I think I've already seen that one too. 30, The Message of Life Slicing the Sky. No, I haven't seen that one. 31, oh, please don't tell me that this just got all stoved up, because that title sounds familiar. No, okay, good. Anyway, it should be 2 episodes, I know not what they are, but 30, 31, 32, and 33 I should be watching next week. Which would be The Message of the Life Slicing Sky, Can Beast Bargain, Our Melody, The Walking Puppet Master. I've already watched Demon Palace's Backstabbing Brother, so whatever in the world's in that one's place that is in the list is 28. That one will be next week. Policewoman with 100 Faces, like I said, I think I've already seen. What's the monster in that one? Maybe it's not. Maybe I haven't seen that one. I don't think I have. So there's that one as well. And one more thing. I just thought of this because I said a minute ago that the episodes I watched this week were largely filler. There was one episode that had a wonderful twist on something and was a little creepy. So I want to call attention to it. Let me see here which episode this would have been. One of our episodes here has a ventriloquist monster. That was episode 24. So The Beautiful Pose Mask. Which is the same one with the tablet. The monster of the week was a ventriloquist monster, which has been done. But one of the things I really liked about the episode was it gave us the mirror match, sort of the clone episode where the hero gets somehow cloned or copied or whatnot. It happens, it's a trope of tokusatsu, but I thought they handled it really well here because essentially it was a masked robot. And I thought they handled it really, really well. It was a really cool take on it. So check that one out too. Obviously, it's one of the 3 I really liked out of this batch. So it's not an extra episode. It's one of the episodes I already talked about. But the way they handled the Shaider versus Shaider fight in human form, not transformed, was really good. So all that said, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. Again, I do apologize that some of these episodes are out of order here. Next week should be the last of that as far as I can tell. And I'm going to go through and probably scan episode titles and make sure that I've got them in the right order on my hard drive before next week's episode. But until then, folks, if you've liked the video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, let us know in the comments below. We're still trying to figure out what I'm going to watch next here on the DenziBlitz, and I need your help to do that. We know it's not going to be from a major franchise. Well, Garo's a major franchise, but it's not going to be from one of the long-lived franchises. So, your choices, Garo, Keitai Sosakan 7, Tamika Hero, Rescue Force, or Ryu Kendo. Those are the main 4, but if you have any other ideas, you know what? Talk about those down below too. I'm going to take the comments from last week's episode and the comments from this week's episode and kind of compile them into a list and see what's what. But you guys tell me what you want me to watch. I have access to pretty much everything. So y'all just tell me what's what and let's see what we're going to watch for the next DenziBlitz. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it. It does help us out. And if you'd like to help us out somehow financially, for instance, maybe you want a t-shirt like the one I'm wearing right now, you can go over to our store, cafepress.com/geekcarolina, and you can pick yourself up a cool t-shirt. There's all kinds of stuff over there for all the different shows here on the network, here on Geek Carolina. But none of that money goes to any of us directly. We all have jobs, so you're not lining anyone's pockets. You're helping us get new equipment and things like that. Stuff to improve the channel. So folks, until next time, when we have part 6. We enter the second half of Space Sheriff Shaider. I'm Mike, and I'll see you then.